Hey everybody, welcome to the last session of our summer webinar series. We are so excited to have you today. So it's time to start thinking like all your favorite sports teams do, which means looking for talent earlier and building your pipeline sooner to ensure that you will have a winning future. You're going to hear from different industries, colleges, workforce professionals, and experts in the field on what they're doing to attract and retain a new generation of talent and how you can too. My name is Shay Tai. I'm the Vice President of Engagement at Tallo. And joining me today is Dr. Kari Franson, the Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs at the end of, and the Professor of Clinical Pharmacy, I got a little ahead of myself there, forgive me, at the University of Southern California's School of Pharmacy. One of the top pharmacy schools nationwide, the USC School of Pharmacy continues its century-long reputation for innovative programming, practice, and research. It is a national leader in advancing the pharmaceutical field since its founding in 1905, with programs encompassing the entire spectrum of pharmacy education, research, and practice, from laboratory science and clinical pharmacy to health policy and regulatory science. All right, our goal today is to engage, interact, and most importantly, learn from Dr. Franson. We've got 20 minutes, and I have no doubt it's going to fly by quickly. It always does. So we encourage you to use the Q&A box so Dr. Franson can answer your questions live. And don't worry, doctor, I'll ask the questions for them. So don't hold back, send over your questions, and we want to make this a valuable and impactful conversation. And it's going to help you with your own strategizing and planning. So, Dr. Franson, welcome to the program. It's an honor that you're with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So let's dive right in. So I gave a little intro to the USC School of Pharmacy, but can you please share a bit more about yourself, your role at the USC of Pharmacy, and we'd also love to learn kind of your pathway to the School of Pharmacy there at USC.
Absolutely. So as you had mentioned, I'm an Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs. And in that role, I oversee both the academic rigor of our program, making sure that the pharmacists that we graduate are contributing to the community and they're safe to do so, right? I mean, you want to get the right drug and the right person at the right time. So
I can't speak for anybody, but that's how I feel. So
yeah. So that's one aspect of it. But then because it's a rigorous program, we need to ensure that we're getting the right students in who can be successful. But it's what I think has been the most fun for me in this role is really educating people on how diverse the profession of pharmacy is. It's my own career has been kind of a whirlwind of different opportunities. And I think that surprises people, right? Because I think most people think, hey, a pharmacist is the person I go and pick up my drugs from, like maybe after you had a dental procedure or something. And I've actually never worked in that environment. I did as I trained, but then once I finished my programming, I was really interested in clinical research. Actually, I'm going to just go ahead and say it, human experimentation. I wanted to put drugs into people and see what happens, right?
Okay.
And it was fascinating to me. And I ended up getting more involved in psychiatric pharmacy. And then once I kind of got into psychiatric pharmacy and was working in hospitals as well as clinics, taking care of those kinds of patients, I ended up going more into truly that first administration in man study. So what that means is you take a chemical, you put it into animals, you determine kind of what it does in those animals, but then you wonder, all right, it's time to put it into people. Are they going to live or not? And I love that. I mean, I make it sound really exciting. In reality, it's really proving that everything you thought the drug was going to do was going to do it, because if you have a surprise, it's actually a bad thing, right? Because you don't want to put a drug into somebody and have a surprise happen. But I loved that. It proved that the chemical, the compound that we're using did what we thought it did.
Right.
Which is part of the drug discovery process. And then as a part of that, believe it or not, I ended up kind of becoming an expert in cannabis, simply because we had a drug company come and want to test their cannabis-like compound And I was living over in the Netherlands at the time doing this work, and there was a little bit easier for me to do that kind of research in that country. Anybody who's been in the Netherlands might know they have fairly high tolerance for these things. And so I ended up doing some studies, and then I came back to the United States. I moved to Colorado. They legalized it for recreational use, and the governor came calling and said, "Hey, I'm interested in what anybody who's had any expert with cannabis." And so I ended up getting into policy making, figuring out what rules and regulations should be put in place to help people stay safe if they choose to use cannabis.
Wow. Okay.
And now I'm at USC, and I'm continuing the work with, again, trying to make sure we get great people into this career, and working with a great team of people who have been just really instrumental in having me understand the best way to recruit and get people who are energized and can see all the possibilities of pharmacy. I rely on a group of people who help me do that. So that's kind of how I got here.
Wow. Well, doctor, I guess a couple of things. Number one, it's so cool because I'm one of those people that, when I think of pharmacy, I think of one thing, right? I think of Walgreens or CVS. That's really the extent of my knowledge of that particular industry. So what's really cool is that, number one, you're super passionate. So it comes across pretty clear, and that definitely is a great fitting role, especially in recruitment and getting people excited about something. So you got that in spades. Number two was you just explained kind of your path through pharmaceuticals and where you got and how you got there. And there's a lot of creativity in it, right? There's a lot of right brain kind of stuff. When I was like, oh, it's all math, it's all analytics, it's all, CCs and beakers. And there's like, no, like there's a lot of like, what if this happens? Or, let's get creative, let's figure this stuff out, and let's kind of go outside the box. That's really cool to me. So I bet that resonates a lot more people that would have never really considered pharmacy as a potential pathway. So really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and you have to recognize that I think for really any profession that's out there, but I think pharmacy has been kind of narrowly defined. But we're healthcare, and when you think about healthcare and where expertise is needed, it's really spans just from creating that compound. What is there? How does that compound get into the body? What does it do once it gets there? How do you manipulate that to treat disease? How to pay for it? I mean, there's financial things in there too. So if you're a financial whiz, you got, there's an opportunity for you to think about, oh, yeah, how do we pay for these things? Is it going to be insurance? Is it out of pocket? How is we as society going to tolerate, a really expensive drug? How to regulate it, just because you don't walk down the street and pick up drugs from the local store. It's regulated, kind of, think about the rollout of the COVID vaccine. How did that happen? So there's really so many different aspects when you think about pharmacy and what kind of expertise is needed. And yeah, I tend to be kind of creative and out of the box thinker. I love thinking of the what ifs and the future, and so kind of strategic planning is, I would say, something I enjoy.
Well, this is a great segue into let's talk recruitment, right? You said you're an outside of the box thinker and you like to think creatively, and truly that is recruiting as well, right? And getting young people excited and knowledgeable about not only about the industry, but also choosing University of Southern Cal over, maybe another college, right? So here's the first question going in. How important is it to recruit early? And can you share more about what we call a recruitment strategy to reach early talent?
Yeah, well, I think that we might have heard those stories about, like, if you don't get in the right kindergarten, you're not going to get in the right high school, you're not going to get in the right college.
Yep.
So we got to be starting early, because I think people are creating a plan in their mind about where they need to be going, and for us to be part of that consideration, we need to be starting early and getting people excited about pharmacy. And so we are reaching out to high schools. We're reaching out to the local community colleges. We're reaching out, obviously, to the colleges as well, trying to tell people, actually, not so much about USC. I mean, I think we have a compelling story to tell, But just the fact that, you ought to be thinking about pharmacy because there's cool things going on here. And in that outreach, we tend to focus on not just people who have already identified with pharmacy, but anybody who's kind of interested in health, in having an impact on society, having an impact on well-being.
Mhm.
People who are interested in those things, we want them on board with us
Sure.
because they're gonna be the ones who contribute to solve tomorrow's problems. So that's pretty much been our message of reaching out, and one of the reasons why Tallow has been helpful for us is we might know the pre-pharmacy group, we might know who's interested. But with Tallow, because you've got people from high school there, you got people who are in different areas of university study.
Mhm.
We can tell our story and say, hey, this is USC, and this is how the programs we have might be of interest to you, and the developing and getting you on your way, on your career.
Sure. And a couple things to add there, and thanks for thanks for giving props to Tallow. We appreciate it. We're super happy to help you. But what's really cool is absolutely number one, being able to find those students out there that are a good fit, or even if they're on kind of like the fringe of like maybe a healthcare type of interest. But
Mm.
there's really also the ability to getting even earlier and connecting with young people who have no clue what they want to do, right? But maybe you see that there's an altruism in their profile, right? Maybe they're volunteering or at a hospital or a nursing home or something like that. That could be someone who's never even considered it, and all of a sudden it just takes that one spark, that one message to say, hey, have you ever thought of this? Check this out. And then it's just like, wow.
Mhm.
So the ability to do that is something that we love personally, and we hope that you do too, to be able to get to that young person and kind of get the message out there before anyone else does, and kind of mold and kind of chart their path to hopefully USC.
Well, and that's just the thing you have to recognize is, we're actually listening to the people the young people who are coming to us because they're asking for it, right? And I think if your mentality is, oh, a pharmacist is a shopkeeper that is transactional, and it's like,
Hmm.
no, we hear the students who are looking for careers saying, no, I want to have an impact on my community. I'm like,
Sure.
well, we are the most accessible healthcare provider because
Hmm.
we're, every person in the United States lives within 5 miles of a pharmacy, which means actually we have more pharmacies across the United States than we have Starbucks, which I know blows everybody's mind, right? But I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. But that means that there's access to that expertise, and you can have a difference in your community.
Cool. Well, so it sounds like also there's a good opportunity to kind of like break that perception, or make sure to intercept it before it's molded by someone else. So, again, another thing that's what I thought. So
Yeah.
I'm learning just as much as these young people who are you're connecting with too. So this is great. All right, next question. We talked when we first prepared for this webinar. We talked about this movement, why pharmacy. So I'd love to learn about what this driving force is for your team, and if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit more about the Why Pharmacy initiative.
Yeah. So again, I think USC has a compelling, statement compared to other pharmacy schools that we don't need to necessarily focus on, but focus on the why this particular profession. And as I had mentioned, this fact that if you're interested in impacting your community, there's opportunities there, and we need good talent. When we think about what the country has just gone through with COVID, for example, pharmacists stepped up. They did all the immunizations. We at USC, for example, developed the megapod, this idea of like having the drive-through vaccinations at a large sports arena like we did at Dodger Stadium. It's this idea that pharmacists have a role in healthcare, and we need you, and we need bright people who can collaborate with other healthcare providers, who can obviously have good connections with patients, who are curious and really want to solve problems. And so for us, our message has simply been, we need you. And whatever your perceptions are about pharmacy, we're here to tell you that it's much broader. This whole idea of the patient care, but also the drug development, the looking at the cost and financials of getting these drugs out there. All these things need work in our healthcare system. And you might not have thought a pharmacist is the path to solve these problems, but we're here to tell you that pharmacists really do have a fascinating role. And like I said, I'm kind of romanticizing the whole first administration and man studies, but come on, that's cool, right? I mean, that's like, I've got a colleague here who looks at putting fungus in space so it can eat up the human waste if we're ever going to like fly off to the distant stars, right? So I mean, there's cool things going on. You can use the same fungus to eat up the microplastics in the ocean. I mean, there's big problems to solve, and having a good understanding of really how compounds interact with our environment, how they interact with our bodies, treat diseases. It's all fun stuff. And that's the message. The message is, we need you, we need smart people, and it's kind of cool.
I love it, especially the third part, right? It's fun, it's cool, it's a way to just expand your mind. You can be part of a global force for good, so it's just one of those things. I mean, I'm getting jacked up about it too. I mean, so this is great. So I appreciate you sharing that, Doctor. So with that, I know you're passionate, and I'm sure you come across students that are a great fit. And and every year you have a new recruiting cycle, and you go through the same process. You may learn a few things every now and then. What would you say is your biggest challenge, if you have one, in recruiting? And if you do have a challenge, what are y'all trying to do to overcome it?
Oh yeah, well, quite honestly, is people who already believe they know what pharmacy is. That's our biggest challenge. I'm not going to lie. We'll get somebody who has been in undergrad, loved biology, maybe loved chemistry, and kind of got a taste of this. Hey, what happened when I put this compound in this environment? What happened? Does it eat the microplastics? These are cool things, and they kind of discover that, right? And then they might go and visit a local pharmacy and not see necessarily what's going on in that pharmacist's brain. And that's the thing, is sometimes with a lot of the work that they might see, they don't see kind of like the interior thought processes and considerations that's going on. And so then it doesn't seem very sexy. So we have to overcome that by saying, no, it is really cool stuff that that pharmacist is looking at a drug interaction. They're not just handing over a product. So I think that for us, overcoming that preconceived, oh, I've done it once and I already know what it all means, is a big message for us. And that's why we talk about why pharmacy. But when it comes to looking at students, one of the things that is an issue for us is it is hard. I'm not going to lie to you. There's 18,000 different drugs out there. It is a lot to know. Being able to weigh when you're taking care of a patient, like, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? It's hard stuff. And so, we certainly are motivated to explain to people. It's like, yes, it's hard, but we're here to support you. We have a program that has graduated successfully for over 100 years, people with their, pharmacy degree. So it might seem daunting, but pretty much everybody we get in is successful in getting out. And that's simply because, we've learned how to do it well. So you can assure to be successful.
Nice. So I told you time was going to fly.
Yeah.
We are right at that 20-minute mark, but we're going to do one more question. Okay. So, and here it is. If you had one tip that you'd be willing to share about recruiting for, say, a specialty program like pharmacy, or just post-secondary recruitment in general, what would that be?
The one tip? Oh,
one tip, or out of many, what would be the one that you believe in the most, or the first one that comes to your head?
The one I believe in most is, that you have to be able to communicate that your site can help support a student to realize any dream they can think for themselves. That is the major recruitment strategy. It's like, if you're interested in that, we're here. There used to be an old movie about, we've got that. And this whole idea of whatever somebody's asking for, we can make that happen. And hopefully you work at an institution that can. And I'm lucky I'm at USC, where we have just such a broad, range of expertise, that a student say, hey, I want to be an astronaut pharmacist. Yeah, we got that. Don't worry, JPL's down the street. So, I think that's really the key recruiting strategy, is to help people realize their dreams.
Bring the passion. Circling right on back. Well, hey, Dr. Franson, it's been an absolute pleasure here. And it looks like everyone are right on time. So forgive us for going a bit over, but we just want to get one more expert tip from Dr. Franson before we let her go, because we know her time is very valuable. So we appreciate it. So again, Dr. Franson, thank you so much for being here, for all the wonderful insight and information. And thank you to everyone who's joined us for the conversation and who's joined us for the past summer webinar series that we've had over the past few weeks. This is our last one. So we're excited to wrap things up with Dr. Franson, saving the best for last. We've got our we're live. We got contact information for Dr. Franson on the screen. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them, and she could answer them too if you would reach out to her directly. Everyone, thank you for joining this summer webinar series and our last one, and have a great week.